I'm Jessica Davis, 29, and until last week, my parents thought my tech startup was a spectacular failure. The text from my father arrived while I was literally posing for Forbes. Family meeting Sunday, 2 p.m. Everyone will be there. Important discussion about your future. My stomach nodded instantly. After 3 years of my parents questioning my decision to launch a payment solutions app, they were staging what felt like a career intervention. The irony? They had no idea I'd just closed a $15 million funding round. Before I tell you what happened next at that family meeting, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, hit that subscribe button, and stick around to see how my family reacted when they realized they'd been planning my career funeral on the same day Forbes named me to their 30 under 30 list. My journey into entrepreneurship wasn't what my parents had mapped out for their firstborn daughter. Growing up in Westchester County, our middle-class suburban life revolved around stability and traditional success markers. My father, Robert, a senior accountant at the same firm for 27 years, and my mother, Linda, a dedicated third-grade teacher, raised me and my younger sister, Olivia, with unwavering beliefs about career paths. Study hard, graduate from a prestigious university, secure employment with benefits, climb the corporate ladder, retire with a pension. This was their definition of success. Their faces beamed with pride when I graduated from Cornell with my business degree and landed my first job at Deloitte. I wore tailored suits, received regular promotions, and checked every box on their approved life path. Then, everything changed during a weekend business trip to San Francisco. While waiting for my rideshare, I witnessed an elderly immigrant street vendor struggling with a credit card reader that kept declining transactions. Tourists walked away as he frantically tried different angles for reception. That moment crystallized something I'd been thinking about for months: the accessibility gap in financial technology. 3 days later, I couldn't stop sketching ideas for an inclusive payment platform that would work even in low connectivity areas, with minimal technical knowledge required. SecurePay was born on Post-it notes and napkins in my hotel room. The excitement I felt describing my vision to my parents quickly evaporated when their encouraging smiles froze into concerned frowns. "But you just got promoted," my mother reminded me. My father was more direct. "Startups are for people without responsibilities. You have student loans and a promising career track." Only Olivia, finishing her psychology degree at NYU, showed genuine enthusiasm. "This could be revolutionary, Jess," she whispered after our parents went to bed. I quit Deloitte anyway. My first office was a corner desk in a noisy co-working space in Brooklyn, shared with 2 former college classmates who believed in the concept enough to come aboard as co-founders. Tyler handled the technical architecture, while Mia focused on user experience. We lived on coffee, determination, and the modest savings I'd accumulated during my corporate years. The first investor meetings were brutal. "Too niche," said one venture capitalist. "Not scalable," declared another. "Come back when you have users," suggested most. Each rejection strengthened my parents' conviction that I'd made a catastrophic error. Sunday dinners became interrogation sessions. "How long can you sustain this before returning to real work?" my father would ask while passing the mashed potatoes. My mother's approach was subtler, sending job listings from her friends' companies with notes like, "Just keeping options open for you." Then came Marcus Bailey, a retired tech executive who took interest in our prototype during a local startup mixer. His $150,000 angel investment allowed us to refine our product and launch a beta version with 50 local businesses. My parents' skepticism intensified when I missed Thanksgiving to fix an urgent platform bug. "Even doctors come home for holidays," my mother noted in her voicemail. As SecurePay slowly gained traction, I met Sophia Chen, a financial inclusion advocate who became our most valuable advisor. She helped reshape our business strategy to focus first on immigrant-owned small businesses before targeting larger markets. Her guidance was invaluable, but the journey remained grueling. My apartment became a satellite office when we couldn't afford rent on both. I subsisted on instant ramen and discount grocery items while working 18-hour days. The cold reality of entrepreneurship, intense isolation, constant uncertainty, and punishing schedules contrasted sharply with my friends' Instagram posts showing promotions, vacations, and engagement rings. Still, Every successful transaction on our platform, every grateful message from a small business owner who could now accept payments reliably, reinforced my conviction. This wasn't just about building a company, it was about solving a real problem that affected real people. Despite eating microwave dinners alone most nights, I felt more purposeful than during my entire corporate career. The early momentum sustained me through the doubtful looks and uncomfortable questions at family gatherings, where relatives seemingly competed to suggest fallback career options. My company's always hiring and accounting, offered Uncle Richard with a sympathetic pat on my shoulder. Meanwhile, Olivia became my secret supporter, bringing leftovers from family dinners I missed and occasionally helping with customer support emails. In those first 18 months, SecurePay processed over 10,000 transactions for small businesses, an achievement my family politely acknowledged with the enthusiasm usually reserved for participation trophies. They couldn't see what I saw, that we were just getting started. The first major setback hit like a thunderclap on a sunny day. Emerald Ventures, the investment firm that had verbally committed to our Series A round, pulled out suddenly, citing economic headwinds, corporate speak for cold feet. Their promised $1.2 million would have fueled our expansion into 3 new markets and allowed us to hire the sales team we desperately needed. Instead, I found myself conducting the most painful meetings of my life, letting go of our first 2 employees and moving operations from our tiny office into my 1-bedroom apartment in Bushwick. The dining table became our conference room, my sofa converted to a guest bed for late work nights, and my kitchen counter transformed into our mail center. By month's end, I had maxed out 3 credit cards to make payroll and keep our servers running. The financial strain became impossible to hide when my mother's birthday arrived and I couldn't afford the weekend spa retreat my sister and I traditionally split as a gift. "Just a card is fine," Mom assured me over the phone, her voice carrying that particular tone of disappointment she'd perfected during my teenage years. I understand things must be tight right now. The following Thanksgiving dinner became a showcase for my apparent failure. Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister with an uncanny ability to weaponize concern, led the charge. "Have you considered teaching business instead of struggling to run one?" she suggested, butter knife poised over her roll like an exclamation point. Cousin Brad, fresh from his MBA and working at his father-in-law's insurance company, offered to review my business model as though I'd created a middle school science project rather than a functioning financial technology platform. My mother cornered me in the kitchen while I rinsed cranberry sauce from serving dishes. Tears welled in her eyes as she gripped my forearm. "Jessica, watching you waste your potential breaks my heart. Your education, your talents, all poured into this experiment. When will you decide enough is enough?" Before I could respond, my father entered with an armful of dessert plates. "The definition of maturity is recognizing when to change course," he stated flatly. "There's no shame in admitting a mistake and returning to a stable path." The conversation might have crushed me completely if not for Uncle Steve, my father's younger brother who'd built a successful real estate empire after dropping out of college. He found me hiding on the back porch, staring into the darkness. "They don't get it because they can't," he said, offering me a glass of bourbon. "Some people aren't wired to understand what drives founders. The uncertainty that terrifies them is the same force that feeds us." His words provided temporary comfort, but the financial reality remained dire. Then came an unexpected turning point at an industry conference I'd scraped together just enough money to attend. I encountered Vanessa Torres, CEO of Payflex, a competitor whose market share I'd envied. Instead of the corporate rivalry I anticipated, Vanessa offered candid advice over coffee. "Your core technology is impressive, but your market approach is backward," she explained. "Stop chasing big accounts. They're already served by established players like us. Focus on the underdog businesses we overlook: food trucks, weekend market vendors, service providers, and connectivity-challenged areas." Her guidance sparked a complete pivot. We rebuilt our marketing strategy around the unique needs of micro-entrepreneurs operating in urban connectivity deserts and rural communities. While revamping our entire approach, I missed my family's annual Christmas vacation to the Poconos. My mother's text, "Your chair at dinner feels emptier each holiday," twisted the knife of guilt I'd been trying to ignore. The pivot proved transformative when Handicraft Co-op, a collective of 60 artisans selling handmade goods across 5 weekend markets, signed on as our first significant client. Their coordinator, Emily, praised our solution after a month-long trial. We've increased sales by 22% since implementing SecurePay, simply because we never miss a transaction now. Despite this breakthrough, my family's perception remained unchanged. In their eyes, I was still the daughter who abandoned a promising career for an entrepreneurial fantasy. My long hours and sparse communication weren't seen as dedication to building something meaningful, but as signs of desperation and failure. At my friend Natalie's wedding, where I served as bridesmaid despite having to step out twice for emergency client calls, relatives circled like concerned vultures. "How's that app thing going?" my grandfather asked, genuine confusion in his eyes about why anyone would leave a prestigious firm to make phone programs. The reception dinner became an extended session of unsolicited career counseling, with suggestions ranging from consultants make good money to my personal favorite from my father's colleague: the FBI is always looking for people with financial backgrounds. That night in my hotel room, surrounded by bridesmaid bouquets and kicked-off heels, I reached my lowest point. The weight of constant doubt, both external and internal, crushed down until breathing felt like an accomplishment. I opened my laptop at 2 a.m., finger hovering over a saved draft of my resume, updated just in case, as my father had suggested. The temptation to surrender had never been stronger. Then a notification pinged, an email from a small business owner in rural Montana. "Your system worked during our county power outage when nothing else did. You saved our biggest market day of the year." I stared at those words until they blurred through tears, then closed my resume file without sending it. At 3 a.m., fueled by gas station coffee and renewed determination, I sketched out an entirely new feature: offline transaction processing with delayed verification. That would become our signature innovation. Missing Olivia's NYU graduation ceremony marked a significant fracture in our family dynamics. Her psychology department honors should have brought us all together in celebration, but I was in San Francisco pitching to Horizon Ventures, an investor group known for backing socially impactful technology. The meeting couldn't be rescheduled, and the potential investment represented survival for SecurePay. My mother's response to my absence transcended her usual disappointment, entering a glacial coldness I hadn't experienced before. "Some moments can't be recaptured with apology flowers, Jessica," she texted alongside a family photo where my absence created an obvious gap. For weeks afterward, our conversations became perfunctory exchanges of essential information, punctuated by passive-aggressive comments about my fantasy business, taking precedence over real-life milestones. My father adopted a different approach, forwarding job listings with alarming regularity. "Financial analyst at Goldman Sachs. They value entrepreneurial experience," read one subject line. "Senior consultant position. Flexible hours for those with family commitments," suggested another, implying my absence from family gatherings indicated a character flaw rather than the necessary sacrifice of a founder. The Independence Day barbecue at my parents' house transformed into an interrogation chamber when extended family arrived. Positioned beside the grill, Uncle Richard questioned my business model between flipping burgers. "So you process payments like PayPal but smaller?" he summarized incorrectly, nodding with exaggerated understanding. Aunt Patricia cornered me by the cooler, wine glass perpetually full, as she suggested that entrepreneurial fixation might benefit from therapeutic intervention. "Rachel's son had similar trouble letting go of his band dreams," she whispered conspiratorially. 3 sessions with Dr. Brennan, and he was happily enrolled in dental school. The breaking point came when my cousin Matthew, a junior loan officer at Chase who still lived in his parents' basement, offered me an entry-level position when you're ready to get serious again. My father overhead and nodded approvingly. It's good to have options, especially from family who understand your situation. Something combustible ignited inside me. My situation? I repeated, voice rising despite my attempts at control. You mean building a company that's now processing over 50,000 transactions monthly for businesses that were previously excluded from digital commerce? The backyard fell silent as heads turned toward our confrontation. Those numbers sound impressive until you calculate the actual revenue, my father countered, accountant instinct surfacing. With your transaction fees, that's barely sustainable. You've never once asked about our business model or revenue structure, I shot back. You decided this was a failure before I even began. The argument escalated until I found myself shouting something about suffocating expectations, while my mother burst into tears. I left abruptly, ignoring relatives' uncomfortable expressions and my father's demand to act like an adult. 3 weeks of silence followed, broken only when Olivia appeared at my apartment door unannounced, pizza and wine in hand. They're worried but showing it all wrong, she explained, surveying my living room with its whiteboards covered in code snippets and market strategies. This doesn't look like failure to me. She examined our analytics dashboard displaying real-time transaction data across the country. You've never actually shown them this, have you? She asked. They wouldn't understand or care. I responded, the bitterness in my voice surprising even me. The unexpected ally emerged in my grandmother Ruth, who called one evening after what must have been another family discussion about my poor life choices. I had a business idea once, she revealed, her voice carrying across 78 years of life experience. A tailoring service for working women in the 60s. Your grandfather thought it was cute but impractical. I listened and spent 40 years wondering what if. Don't spend your life wondering, Jessica. Her words fortified me against the next blow, my father emailing an article entitled Millennials and the Startup Delusion, When to Admit Defeat. The subject line read only, food for thought. Despite the family drama, SecurePay continued gaining momentum. We secured a partnership with Frontier Financial, a regional bank looking to expand its services to underserved communities. Their institutional backing provided both credibility and the capital needed to enhance our platform. This success remained invisible to my parents, who had by then adopted a policy of deliberate ignorance toward my business. My mother casually informed neighbors that I was between jobs but exploring opportunities, while my father brushed off questions about my career with vague references to tech experiments. The silence between us grew until one night, after a particularly brutal investor meeting where we'd been questioned about our long-term viability, I called my mentor Sophia in tears. They've never believed in me. I sobbed into the phone. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm delusional. Sophia's response was gentle but firm. The only delusion here is thinking their approval determines your success. Would you abandon your users who depend on your service just because your family doesn't understand it? The conversation steadied me enough to focus on our upcoming presentation at the Financial Innovation Summit in Chicago. Unknown to me, a Forbes journalist attended our workshop on financial inclusion technology. Her follow-up questions seemed routine at the time. I had no idea she was considering us for recognition that would change everything. The email came 3 weeks later. Forbes 30 Under 30 nomination, interview request. I nearly marked it as spam before recognizing the sender's credentials. After the verification call and photo shoot, I was sworn to secrecy until the official announcement. The weight of this imminent validation pressed against the dam of family disapproval, creating a strange limbo where I simultaneously felt like both a failure and success. The text message from my father arrived precisely at 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Family meeting Sunday, 2 p.m. Everyone will be there. Important discussion about your future. No context, no explanation, just 12 words that sent my anxiety spiraling to unprecedented heights. The rest of the week unfolded in slow-motion dread as I mentally prepared counterarguments to every possible scenario. Would they present an ultimatum? Had they consulted a financial advisor about my situation? The Forbes announcement wouldn't go live until Monday, one day too late to shield me from whatever intervention they had planned. Olivia's warning text on Friday only intensified my apprehension. They've talked to everyone about you. Grandma, uncles, even Pastor Mike from their church. This is bigger than usual. Sunday arrived with merciless sunshine, mockingly cheerful against my mood as I parked outside my childhood home. The driveway already overflowed with familiar vehicles: Aunt Patricia's Mercedes, Uncle Richard's pickup truck, Cousin Matthew's leased BMW. Taking a deep breath, I reminded myself that I was the founder of a successful fintech company, not a teenager being summoned for punishment. The tableau that greeted me inside confirmed my worst fears. The living room had been rearranged into what resembled a therapy circle, with chairs positioned to face a single seat obviously intended for me. My mother's eyes were rimmed red from crying, while my father stood with arms crossed, expression grim beneath his silver-flecked hair. Relatives filled every available space, their faces displaying variations of concern, judgment, and uncomfortable anticipation. "Jessica," my father began after minimal greetings were exchanged. "We've asked everyone here because we all care about your future. It's time for a realistic family discussion about your situation." The word situation hung in the air like a verdict. Aunt Patricia nodded vigorously, her statement necklace clinking with the movement. "We're here to discuss your failing company," Dad announced to everyone, voice carrying the authoritative tone he'd used when discussing serious matters throughout my childhood. Mom nodded sadly beside him, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "This intervention comes from a place of love," she added softly. One by one, family members delivered prepared statements that felt rehearsed, yet sincere in their misguided concern. Uncle Richard outlined the harsh realities of business failure statistics. 90% of startups fail within 3 years, he explained, as though this was revolutionary information I'd never encountered. "You're approaching that milestone with no significant market breakthrough." Aunt Patricia described her friend's daughter, who had bounced back beautifully after her own business collapsed, now happily managing a department store. "There's no shame in recognizing when a dream isn't viable," she assured me, voice dripping with condescension masked as compassion. Cousin Matthew, emboldened by the supportive environment, offered to completely revamp my LinkedIn profile and resume. "My company's recruitment team owes me a favor. They could fast-track you into customer service, maybe even assistant management with your background." Each statement hammered another nail into the coffin of their perception of my career, constructed entirely without my input or accurate information. The culminating blow came when my father stood, hands in pockets, to deliver what was clearly the main address. "Your mother and I have made a difficult decision," he announced, glancing toward Mom for confirmation. She nodded tearfully. "We've taken out a second mortgage on the house. We want to provide you with a fresh start, enough to clear your debts and support you while you transition back to traditional employment." The room fell silent as the magnitude of their misunderstanding dawned on me. They had leveraged their retirement security based on assumptions about my business without once asking for actual data or financials. The fury building inside me must have shown on my face despite my efforts to maintain composure. I opened my mouth to respond when Olivia, who had been uncharacteristically quiet while scrolling through her phone, suddenly gasped loudly enough to draw everyone's attention. Her eyes widened as she stared at her screen, color draining from her face. "Oh my God," she whispered, then looked up at me. For a terrifying second, I feared more bad news, until she turned her phone toward the family gathering. "Why is your face on Forbes 30 under 30 list?" The question sliced through the tension like a thunderclap. My sister's voice rose with each word as she processed what she was seeing. "Jessica Davis, founder of SecurePay, revolutionizing financial inclusion technology for underserved markets," she read incredulously. "Valued at..." She stopped, double-checking the number before continuing. $28 million following their latest funding round? The absolute silence that followed felt eternal. Every eye in the room swiveled between Olivia's phone and my face, searching for confirmation or denial. My father lunged forward, snatching the phone from Olivia's hand with uncharacteristic abruptness. His eyes scanned the article, face transforming through confusion, disbelief, and finally, the emotion that hurt most to witness: embarrassment. "This can't be right," he muttered, fingers frantically scrolling through the piece. "This must be a different Jessica Davis." Mom rushed to peer over his shoulder, her tearful expression morphing into stunned bewilderment. "That's definitely our Jessica in the photo," she confirmed, voice barely audible. Aunt Patricia abandoned all pretense of composure, scrambling from her seat to view the screen. "Forbes?" she repeated, as though the publication's name itself was a foreign concept. "The Forbes?" Uncle Richard adjusted his glasses, confusion etched across his features. "Is this some kind of publicity stunt?" he questioned, the implication that I might have manufactured the recognition somehow even more insulting than their previous assumptions of failure. The fortress of misconceptions they had built around my career was crumbling visibly before my eyes, leaving them exposed and disoriented in its collapse. The heavy silence stretching across my parents' living room felt tangible enough to touch. 20 pairs of eyes fixed on me, waiting for explanation, confirmation, or perhaps confession that this was all some elaborate hoax. I stood slowly, feeling steadier than I had in years within these walls. "The Forbes recognition wasn't supposed to go public until tomorrow," I began, my voice surprisingly calm. "But yes, that's me, and those numbers are accurate." I watched my father sink heavily onto the couch, Forbes' article still displayed on Olivia's phone clutched in his hand. My mother covered her mouth, eyes darting between me and the screen as though reconciling two irreconcilable realities. Cousin Matthew stuttered. "But you work from your apartment. Your clothes are from last season. You drove here in a 10-year-old Honda." His evident confusion about how success could exist without ostentatious displays of wealth might have been amusing under different circumstances. "We closed our Series B funding round last week," I continued, addressing the entire room but focusing primarily on my parents. $15 million from Elevation Partners and Global Venture Fund, with an additional strategic investment from Horizon Financial. Our valuation now stands at $28 million. I paused, allowing the numbers to sink in. We have over 600,000 active users across 43 states. Our transaction volume exceeded $30 million last quarter. The statistics I'd tracked obsessively, celebrated privately, and never shared with my family now tumbled forth, each figure dismantling another layer of their misconception. Our technology serves businesses in connectivity deserts, rural communities, urban micro-entrepreneurs, and immigrant-owned establishments previously excluded from digital commerce. We've processed payments during 3 natural disasters when traditional systems failed completely. My sister beamed proudly while my father's expression cycled through visible calculations, his accountant's mind finally engaging with my business on its actual terms rather than his assumptions. Aunt Patricia recovered first, social survival instincts kicking in as she adjusted her narrative with breathtaking speed. "I always told Linda you had that special entrepreneurial spirit," she declared, conveniently forgetting her therapy recommendation from 30 minutes earlier. "The family has always believed in you." The audacity nearly made me laugh. Uncle Richard cleared his throat awkwardly. "Well, this changes the conversation considerably," he observed unnecessarily. "Have you considered expanding into commercial real estate payment processing? My company could potentially." I raised my hand, stopping his pivot from intervention participant to business opportunist mid-sentence. "I appreciate the sudden interest in collaboration," I stated firmly, "but that's not why we're here. We're here because not one person in this room, except perhaps Olivia, ever bothered to actually ask about my business beyond superficial questions designed to confirm your preconceptions." The directness silenced the room again. My mother's eyes welled with fresh tears, but these seemed different from the earlier ones, realization rather than pity. "Why didn't you tell us?" she whispered. The question ignited something I'd suppressed during years of dismissal. I tried, repeatedly, but you were so convinced of my inevitable failure that you interpreted every sign of progress as delusion on my part. I turned toward my father, whose complexion had paled considerably. "You sent me job listings during the same week we were finalizing our partnership with Frontier Financial. You told relatives I was between opportunities while I was literally speaking at industry conferences." My voice remained level but gained intensity with each example. When I missed family gatherings, you assumed it was because I was ashamed, not because I was building something meaningful. You took out a second mortgage without once asking to see our financial statements or business plan. The weight of these truths settled visibly on my parents' shoulders. My father placed Olivia's phone on the coffee table, his hands slightly trembling. "We thought we were protecting you from yourself," he admitted quietly. "We were wrong." His acknowledgement, however insufficient, represented the first crack in a wall of misunderstanding that had separated us for years. Cousin Rebecca, who worked in public relations and had remained silent throughout the intervention, suddenly perked up. "The Forbes recognition is a massive PR opportunity," she declared, professional instincts overriding family drama. "You'll need media training before the television requests start coming in." Her assumption that I would need her services might have irritated me in the past, but now it simply highlighted how completely they had misunderstood my capabilities. "Our communications team has already prepared for the announcement," I explained. "We have interviews scheduled with CNBC and Bloomberg next week." Grandmother Ruth, who had observed the entire scene with remarkable composure, finally spoke up from her corner chair. "I always said Jessica had Clara's spirit," she remarked, referring to her entrepreneurial sister who had run a successful millinery business in the 1940s. Her quiet pride felt like the only authentic support in the room. I addressed the gathering once more, establishing boundaries that should have existed long ago. "Moving forward, I'd appreciate if everyone would respect my professional judgment the same way you'd respect a doctor's medical opinion or a lawyer's legal advice. I've built something significant, and while I welcome actual interest in understanding my work, I won't entertain further interventions based on misconceptions." My mother nodded slowly, acceptance mixed with lingering confusion in her expression. "Will you stay for dinner?" she asked tentatively, reverting to her default comfort mechanism of feeding people through complicated situations. "I have that spinach lasagna you like." The normalcy of her question against the backdrop of such extraordinary revelations struck me as both absurd and touching. "Not today, Mom," I replied gently. "I have preparations to make for tomorrow's official announcement." As I gathered my belongings to leave, relatives approached with awkward congratulations and business cards, their earlier concern morphing seamlessly into networking opportunities. I exited with measured dignity, neither gloating nor diminishing the significance of what had transpired. The validation I had secretly craved from my family had finally arrived, but its value had diminished during the years I spent learning to believe in myself without it. Walking to my 10-year-old Honda, actually a 7-year-old Civic I'd chosen for practicality rather than status, I felt lighter than I had in years, unburdened from the weight of their disapproval which I'd carried far longer than necessary. The Forbes announcement ignited a firestorm across social media and industry publications. My carefully curated LinkedIn profile, previously generating perhaps a dozen views weekly, suddenly attracted thousands of connection requests from investors, potential partners, and curious onlookers. The SecurePay website crashed briefly under unprecedented traffic, prompting our development team to work through the night implementing emergency scaling solutions. By Wednesday, my calendar overflowed with interview requests, speaking invitations, and congratulatory messages from people who had previously ignored my emails. Our modest co-working space suddenly felt inadequate as reporters requested office visits and promotional photos. Within 2 weeks, we signed a lease on proper headquarters in downtown Brooklyn, 3,000 square feet of legitimate office space with conference rooms, dedicated workstations, and a kitchen that didn't double as someone's bedroom. The team expanded rapidly from 8 to 23 employees, including several specialists who would have been beyond our reach just months earlier. Amidst this whirlwind of positive change, my personal phone remained conspicuously quiet from one particular category of contacts: family. The silence broke on the 10th day after the intervention, when an arrangement of congratulatory flowers arrived at our new office. The card read simply, "We are proud of you. Love, Mom and Dad." No apology, no acknowledgement of their misjudgment. Just 5 words that somehow carried both genuine sentiment and stunning inadequacy. Olivia became the unofficial family ambassador, relaying information in both directions with diplomatic neutrality. "They're processing," she explained during our weekly coffee meetup. Dad's reading everything published about Secure Pay. Mom's telling anyone who'll listen that her daughter is revolutionizing financial technology, though I'm pretty sure she still doesn't understand what that actually means. The extended family's reaction proved predictably opportunistic. Uncle Richard emailed a detailed prospectus for potential investment opportunities in Secure Pay. As early-stage family backers, the proposal suggested, though he had never offered a dollar or a word of encouragement before the Forbes recognition. Aunt Patricia invited me to speak at her country club's women's leadership luncheon, suddenly positioning herself as my longtime supporter and mentor. Cousin Matthew requested an informational interview about transitioning from banking to fintech, his previous condescension replaced with transparent networking ambitions. I established clear professional boundaries with relative-turned opportunists while focusing on the exponential challenges of managing sudden growth and attention. The authentic relationships within the company culture became increasingly precious as external validation threatened to distort priorities. We implemented weekly team lunches where everyone from newest hires to founding members shared ideas without hierarchy. These sessions produced some of our most innovative solutions while fostering genuine camaraderie during intense scaling pressures. My mother initiated weekly phone calls, awkward at first, but gradually evolving into something resembling normal parent-child communication. She asked actual questions about my work, though her understanding remained superficial. I told my book club about your payment processing for rural areas, she mentioned during one call. Brenda's daughter has trouble with internet at her farm in Vermont and wants to know if your app would work there. These small connections, however basic, represented more genuine interest than she'd shown in the previous 3 years combined. My father's approach to reconciliation took longer and followed a different path. He requested financial projections and business plans, engaging with Secure Pay through the analytical framework he understood. His eventual email, "Your unit economics are impressive. Sustainable growth model with strong protective moat around core technology," constituted high praise in his language, though it lacked any personal acknowledgement of our fractured relationship. The most surreal moment came when I hired Alexis Chen, a former Deloitte colleague who had openly questioned my sanity when I resigned to launch Secure Pay. "I thought you were having a quarter-life crisis," she admitted during her interview. "Now everyone at the firm uses you as the example of taking the right risk at the right time." Her candor was refreshing, and her skills in operational scaling made her an ideal addition to our executive team. As our visibility increased, so did criticism from established players in the financial technology space. A particularly scathing analysis from a competing CEO questioned our security protocols and long-term viability. The attack momentarily transported me back to family dinners filled with doubt until my sister's unexpected intervention. Olivia arrived at my apartment unannounced, brandishing takeout and determination. "You're spiraling," she diagnosed accurately. "Remember what you told me about entrepreneurship? New levels, new devils. These critics are just confirmation you're disrupting something valuable." Her psychology background, combined with authentic sisterly support, provided perspective I couldn't find elsewhere. "Besides," she added while serving Thai food onto mismatched plates, "I've been thinking about joining Secure Pay after I finish my doctorate." The casual revelation stunned me. "You want to work for the company?" Olivia nodded, suddenly serious. "I've been following your progress more closely than anyone. There's a huge opportunity to apply behavioral economics to financial inclusion. Plus," she grinned, "someone needs to translate tech speak into language Mom can understand." The possibility of working alongside the one family member who had consistently believed in Secure Pay created a bridge between my professional world and personal history I hadn't realized I needed. Our parents' first official visit to company headquarters occurred 6 months after the intervention debacle. My father moved through the office like an appraiser, noting details from the ergonomic furniture to the enterprise-grade network infrastructure, with approving nods. My mother charmed the entire staff with her genuine interest in their backgrounds and roles, somehow distributing homemade cookies despite my explicit request for professional boundaries. The visit concluded with an unexpected moment of vulnerability from my father. Studying our live transaction dashboard displaying payment volumes across the country, he cleared his throat uncomfortably. "I never saw this," he admitted quietly. "In my mind, you were working on some small app in your apartment. This is—" He gestured toward the operations floor where 24 professionals collaborated on enterprise-level financial technology. Significant. I should have asked to see it sooner. The acknowledgement wasn't quite an apology, but from a man who had built his identity around financial prudence and risk aversion, it represented monumental growth. The Thanksgiving following the Forbes recognition marked our family's first holiday gathering since the intervention. I arrived not as the disappointing daughter pursuing an impractical dream, but as the successful founder featured in business publications. The shift in dynamic was palpable as relatives who had once offered job referrals now asked about hiring opportunities at SecurePay. "My son's graduating with a computer science degree," Uncle Richard mentioned casually. "Any internship possibilities?" Despite the temptation to indulge in petty satisfaction, I found greater peace in simply occupying my new reality with neither resentment nor validation seeking. The family script had been permanently rewritten, not because I had proven them wrong, but because I had remained true to my vision regardless of their approval. 1 year after the Forbes recognition changed everything, I stood at the window of our expanded headquarters overlooking the Brooklyn skyline, reflecting on the journey's unexpected turns. SecurePay now employed 78 people across 3 offices, processed over $80 million in monthly transactions, and had just launched our foundation supporting financial literacy in underserved communities. The company's growth brought new challenges daily, but nothing compared to those early years of building something while surrounded by doubt. The anger that once fueled late-night coding sessions and defiant pitch meetings had gradually transformed into something more constructive: understanding. My parents hadn't opposed my dreams out of malice, but from genuine fear for my security and happiness, as they defined it. Their generation witnessed economic instability that shaped deep-rooted beliefs about professional safety. Their criticism, however painful, came from love filtered through fear rather than deliberate undermining. This realization helped me create SecurePay's mentorship program specifically tailored for entrepreneurs from similar backgrounds, those building businesses without family support or understanding. The program paired founders with experienced mentors who provided both technical guidance and emotional strategies for navigating unsupportive environments. 23 entrepreneurs completed our first cohort, several securing their initial funding rounds. My relationship with my mother evolved through intentional, honest conversations. During a quiet dinner at my apartment, she finally articulated what had driven her opposition. "We watched you struggle in ways you tried to hide," she explained, twisting her wedding ring nervously. "The missed family events, the weight loss, how tired you looked during holidays. We interpreted those as signs of failure because we couldn't imagine them as necessary sacrifices for something worthwhile." Her explanation didn't erase the past, but offered context that helped me release lingering resentment. "I wish you had believed in me enough to ask about my vision instead of assuming failure," I responded gently. "But I understand you were trying to protect me from what you saw as inevitable disappointment." This exchange marked the beginning of genuine healing between us, with my mother gradually becoming one of SecurePay's most enthusiastic advocates, though she still occasionally sent job listings, just in case something interesting catches your eye. My father's evolution took longer, but ultimately reached greater depth. His first visit to our company headquarters had initiated change, but the real breakthrough occurred unexpectedly during a father-daughter lunch 6 months later. "I've been reviewing your presentations to investors," he admitted, having apparently studied recordings available online. "Your grasp of financial projections and risk management is exceptional. You're actually better at this than I would have been." Coming from him, this represented extraordinary acknowledgement. "I didn't just doubt your business," he continued, maintaining eye contact despite evident discomfort with emotional transparency. "I doubted your judgment, which was unforgivable considering your education and abilities." "I was wrong, Jessica." His direct admission of error meant more than any accolade or funding announcement. "I forgive you, Dad," I responded simply. "And I'd value your financial insights on our expansion plans, if you're willing to offer them." This invitation to contribute his expertise represented our new foundation, mutual professional respect alongside our personal connection. The following Thanksgiving dinner unfolded with remarkable normalcy compared to previous years. No interrogations about career choices, no thinly veiled suggestions about real jobs, just families sharing a meal with newfound respect for different paths to fulfillment. My sister Olivia had indeed joined SecurePay after completing her psychology doctorate, heading our behavioral economics research division with remarkable success. Her presence created a bridge between my professional and personal worlds that helped integrate previously conflicting aspects of my identity. Speaking at Cornell's business school provided unexpected closure as I addressed students in the same auditorium where I'd once absorbed the traditional career wisdom I later abandoned. The greatest challenge in entrepreneurship isn't securing funding or building technology, I told them. It's maintaining conviction when everyone whose opinion matters tells you you're mistaken. Sometimes the most valuable skill is knowing when to listen to advice and when to trust your vision despite universal opposition. A young woman approached afterward, describing her family's resistance to her software startup. "How did you handle the constant doubt from people you love?" she asked, her expression reflecting the same isolation I had experienced. "Build a support system of people who understand your journey," I advised. "But also recognize that family opposition often comes from genuine concern, not desire to undermine you. Their fear for your security can look like lack of faith in your abilities." This perspective, impossible during my struggling years, now came naturally, illustrating my own growth alongside the company's. Meeting monthly with a founder facing similar family dynamics became both mentorship and therapy. Madison Chen had developed an innovative educational platform while her immigrant parents pressured her to pursue medical school. Our conversations helped her establish boundaries while understanding her parents' perspective, ultimately leading to cautious support from her family as her company gained recognition. "You showed me it's possible to succeed without family approval while still leaving room for reconciliation later," she told me during our last session before her major product launch. Perhaps the most profound reconciliation occurred during a private moment with my father following a major industry award ceremony where SecurePay received recognition for financial inclusion innovation. He had attended alongside my mother, watching from the audience as I accepted the award and acknowledged the team's contributions. "I understand now why you couldn't give up," he said quietly as we waited for our car outside the venue. "You saw something real that the rest of us couldn't see." His words acknowledged both my vision and his limitations in a way that completed a circle of understanding between us. "I needed to prove it to myself, not to anyone else," I responded, realizing the truth of this statement only as I spoke it. "Though I wish you could have taken the journey with me rather than waiting for validation at the destination." He nodded solemnly. "That's the gift you're giving other entrepreneurs through your mentorship program, companions for the journey. It's more valuable than any investment." The wisdom in his observation confirmed how much our relationship had evolved from the intervention day when he'd concluded I was delusional. Maintaining authenticity through success proved challenging in unexpected ways. As SecurePay attracted acquisition offers and partnership opportunities, outside voices pushed for decisions that contradicted our core mission of financial inclusion. The principles that guided me through doubt and struggle remained essential during prosperity and recognition. "Success changes the voices around you, not the voice within you," became my mantra during particularly difficult decisions. The journey from misunderstood founder to recognized innovator taught me that external validation, whether from family, investors, or media, ultimately matters less than fidelity to authentic vision and impact. The intervention my family staged to save me from entrepreneurial failure now serves as a powerful reminder that conviction sometimes requires continuing forward when everyone who loves you believes you're heading toward disaster. Their inability to see my potential wasn't failure of love but limitation of perspective. Have you ever pursued something important despite everyone telling you it wouldn't work? Drop a comment below sharing how you maintained your conviction during those challenging times. I'd love to hear your stories of persistence against the odds. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more authentic entrepreneur experiences. And remember, sometimes the people who love you most understand your dreams least, but that doesn't make either your love or your dreams less valid. Thank you for joining me for this story, and I hope it inspires you to trust your vision even when no one else can see it yet. Share this with someone who needs this reminder today.